everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the TennisONE podcast. I'm Madison Golden, co-hosted alongside Patrick Kuhle. Welcome into the TennisONE app.
Hey guys, thanks for joining our podcast. We're excited. We're on Spotify now. So we're TennisONE app and Spotify. You can listen to this. Thanks for checking us out.
And we're going to dive into, of course, the finals of the Australian Open. But before we do that, something that made headlines this week was just in regards to Novak Djokovic's father and kind of what happened with that. So we're going to go ahead and just start right off the bat with that, break it down and just present you with all the facts on that first, since it obviously made headlines all over social media. So essentially what happened was a YouTube account showed Novak Djokovic's father posing with a man holding a Putin flag and other fans holding banned Russian flags. And the video was captioned, Novak Djokovic's father makes a bold political statement. Obviously, Novak's father came in and he made a statement, issued a statement of his own saying that he is here. I am here to support my son only. I had no intention of causing such headlines or disruption. I was outside with Novak's fans, as I have done for all of my son's matches, to celebrate his wins and take pictures with them. I had no intention of being caught up in this. My family has lived through the horror of war, and we wish only for peace. And then he further went on and said, so there is no disruption to tonight's semifinal match for my son or for the other player. I have chosen to watch from home. I wish for a great match, and I will be cheering for my son as always. End quote. So that's what his father said. And then Novak, in his press conference following the semifinal match, had this to say.
Well, I saw, as everybody else saw, what happened yesterday, and it was unfortunate that the misinterpretation of what happened yesterday has escalated to such a high level there, where there was, I would say, a lot of conversations with the tournament director, with media, and everyone else. So it has got to me, of course, as well, and I was not aware of it until last night. And then, of course, I was not pleased to see that. My father, my whole family, and myself have been through several wars during the 90s. So, as my father put in a statement, we're against the war. We never will support any violence or any war. We know how devastating that is for the family, for people in any country that is going through the war. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that my father, as he said in a statement, has been going after every single match to meet with my fans at the main square here in the Australian Open, to thank them for the support, to be with them, pay them respect, and make photos. And the photo that he made, he was passing through. I heard what he said in the video. He said cheers, and unfortunately some of the media has interpreted that in a really wrong way. So I'm sorry that that has escalated so much, but I hope people understand that there was absolutely no intention whatsoever to support any kind of war initiatives or anything like that. You know, my father, as I said, was passing through, and there was a lot of Serbian flags around, and that's what he thought. He thought he was making photo with somebody, you know, from Serbia, and that's it. He moved on. Of course, that it's not pleasant for me to go through this with all the things that I had to deal with, you know, last year and this year in Australia. So it's not something that I want or need. And I hope that people will let it be, and we can focus on tennis.
Yeah, so that was Novak following his semifinal match, and obviously a sensitive subject and something that caused a lot of heat in the tennis community, and a lot of people were angered and really upset by this, and obviously caused a lot of controversy. Patrick, just kind of, what did you see, you know, being so heavily involved in social media during the Australian Open, and just kind of how people reacted to this, and what you think of Novak's statement and his father's statement?
Yeah. So like you said, this happened after the quarterfinal win over Andre Rublev. And it was, this video was posted to YouTube on sort of a pro-Russia account. And so there was a lot of quick reporting on it. And it's hard to really know, like looking back, what was accurate, at the time when the story first broke. The people that were reporting it were saying that after Novak's dad took the picture with these people at the tournament, that he said "Long live Russia" as he walked away, which obviously that is that is a bold political statement if that was the case. As I think a lot of people just heard in the clip we played from Novak. Novak said that his dad didn't say that his dad simply just said cheers. And that actually, I saw that from some other people that speak the language on Twitter before Novak's statement came out, that he had just said cheers when he took the picture. But, it's tough because, like, on one hand, it sounds like, Novak's saying his dad just is being nice to his fans, taking pictures, things like that. But when you see that video, yes, are the flags similar colors to the Russia flag? They are, but there was a flag with Putin's face on it. He's quite recognizable, I would say. So it's it's tough to say. Djokovic obviously very well spoken, and if you take him at his word there, then it is what it is. It's unfortunate. I think this is the absolute last thing that Novak wanted going into the late stages of this tournament. He has sort of been on a goodwill campaign down in Australia this month, coming off being deported last year.
Yeah.
Wasn't totally sure what his crowd reception was going to be like at the first tournament in Adelaide, but it was really strong. And honestly, it has been strong sort of this whole month. He's had a ton of fans there. I haven't really heard many boos, if any at all. So it's, he's sort of just been trying to charm everybody, and he's very good at that. But this is just another thing on the Djokovic list of him sort of taking one step forward and two steps back. That's kind of how I've always thought of him, because he's a guy that, man, he's so good at tennis, and he is often likable when you listen to him speak, and he's a very good speaker, very smart guy,
really smart, super intelligent.
Yeah, but then I mean, obviously, for this podcast, I was doing some research just back into his controversies, because frankly, there's just so many that I couldn't remember them all. Like you can remember the most recent ones, but they sort of date back to like even 2008. He was taking multiple medical timeouts during matches, I think against Tommy Robredo, and then he was coming up against Roddick, and Roddick was kind of famous for saying that, Djokovic had 2 hurt ankles, bird flu, and SARS, sort of being the very direct Roddick that he is. So that was kind of, the first one that I could remember and found. And that was just something that a lot of people do, frankly. So, but then most recently, I think even before, he hit the ball, or the umpire in the throat during the 2020 US Open match, before that, even in that same year, he had organized this Adria tour, which was it was for charity. It was sort of an exhibition, and, he had Zverev and Grigor and all these people there. But then these videos came out on social media of them like partying at a club, like kind of during peak pandemic. And the next thing Grigor's got COVID. And, so when Djokovic tries to do things for charity or whatever, it doesn't always go well. And then, like I said, the default of the 2020 US Open, and then obviously the deportation last year for coming in the country without being vaccinated. So, it's just kind of like one step forward, two steps back. And I don't know. I listened to what he said, and like, as we said, he's very good at speaking. And, I hope what he says is the total truth, but there is a lot of feedback on social media of people saying, it's easy to say you're anti-war, but, he doesn't denounce Putin specifically or Russia. He never says those two words in anything he says. So I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know that I know what that situation's like.
Sure.
Especially coming from, a country like Serbia. So, and he did grow up, during a war, and like literally bombs going off in the area that he lived, and that's got to be insanely difficult. So yeah, to me it does make me sort of believe what he said, but I can certainly understand why it's not that easy for everyone to just say, oh yeah, thanks for saying that, Novak. So what did you think of what he said?
I mean, I agree with you there. I think he's really well spoken, but he's also very selective with his words, as I'm sure he's being advised to be. I mean, anything can be taken out of context, and I understand that he feels that his father's actions were taken out of context. But like we mentioned, the flags, similar colors maybe, but very clearly displaying Putin's face. So it's just, I mean, the facts are there, and unfortunately his father was recorded posing with those fans, and you can't really deny that. So I think Novak handled the situation as best as he could, but obviously a very highly controversial situation. And I'm sure the Australian Open are just concerned for not only their staff, their players, but the fans. I mean, the safety of people attending this event is obviously the top priority. So I'm sure this added controversy this close to the finals is not what they wanted, and it's not something that they want to be associated with. So obviously we hope for the safety of everybody in attendance, and I hope that nothing, further from this happens or anything. I know you never know. It's a scary place that we live in. And anytime there's controversial things like this that happen, I'm always concerned for the safety of those involved. So
yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, Australian Open always seems to have to deal with something. They even before COVID, they had these brush fires. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like the smoke was coming all the way to Melbourne, and like they had issues with that. And then all the stuff with COVID, they had the players doing the 2-week lockdowns in the hotel rooms before the tournament that one year. I think it was 2021. And then last year, Novak not being able to, or being deported. So unfortunately, I don't know if it's just the first major of the year, and so they're the ones that have to iron out the kinks a lot of times. But yeah, so sort of unlucky, but good point on just fan safety. And it'll be interesting to see what Wimbledon does now, because there's a lot of talk about whether or not they're going to let the Russian and Belarusian players in the tournament. And this sort of thing happening right now will be an interesting spin. I don't think they'll make an announcement until much closer to the tournament. Obviously they want to see what's going on with the war as you get close to Wimbledon. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, good move. Obviously, not having the father at the match, because I think he while he does have a very strong Serbian crowd there, yeah, he definitely would have gotten a little bit more negative reaction, I think, if his dad was there. So,
and I would assume that he'll probably stay away for the final as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say, like that would make the most sense for him to not come.
Right.
But I also wonder, like, it wouldn't surprise me if, Djokovic kind of thinks, okay, well, we dispelled this, we made our statements, we're anti-war, so now it's going to be okay for my dad to be there. And, they did make the trip all the way down to Australia, and their son's in the final. So, they very much want to be there. So it'll be interesting if Novak thinks, ultimately, I guess it'll be up to him to tell his dad whether or not he wants him to come. And probably it's not easy telling your dad you don't want him to be there when you're playing the finals of a slam, that's for sure. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously some a little bit more controversial and maybe some negative things surrounding the Australian Open and Novak Djokovic in particular, but there are a lot of positives that still remain. Obviously, our 4 finalists on the men's and women's side. So very exciting for singles, and then of course doubles as well. So we'll get into that. But for now, we will just take a short break.
Hey guys, welcome back to the TennisONE podcast. We just were talking about the Novak Djokovic situation with his father. Not the attention the tournament wanted, but still necessary to talk about it. We now want to get into some of the fun stuff of the tournament. After watching the quarters and semis play out over the last couple of days, we picked 3 things that we learned from the quarters and semis at Australian Open. Kind of want to count them down. We'll start from number 3 here. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me watching these matches and just honestly coming off the back of last year was the U.S. men. It's going to be a storyline all year for sure. We had a lot of strong results at Wimbledon even last year. Multiple players making the 4th round. I think Tiafoe and Tommy Paul did. And then U.S. Open, obviously Tiafoe making the semis. And now we followed it up with literally 3 players in the quarterfinals. So we're getting closer all the time. And, we had Sebastian Korda, Tommy Paul, and Ben Shelton in the quarters. I would say out of those 3, Sebi Korda right now is probably the best, or at least playing the best tennis. I think he had definitely the best chance. Too bad he had that wrist injury because the guy was playing.
That's so sad. I was so crushed.
I know. He's playing such good tennis, coming off taking second at the Adelaide International 1 event, where he had match point on Djokovic. He's just hitting the ball so clean. He had several big wins, beat Medvedev at the Australian Open, several big wins, Hurkacz, and his issue has kind of been his mental ability to close out matches in the past. He was serving for the match against Nadal one time and lost. He had the match point against Djokovic and lost, but in Australian Open, when he was given the chance to close it out, it wasn't always easy. He didn't do it on the first try sometimes, but he did close out these matches. And, between that and just how he strikes the ball, he is definitely a top 5, probably cleanest hitter on the tour. And when you hear the ball come off his racket, you can really hear that. So that's too bad. He had the wrist injury. Hopefully it's nothing serious because, oh man, knock on wood, we've seen some wrist injuries go bad for tennis players. So
yeah, he's not a player that you want to see out for very long. That's for sure, especially after this run.
I know. So hopefully the test that he gets done, don't show anything too serious and just maybe a little bit of overwork or something. So we'll see on that. Tommy Paul, he's been having super strong results the last 12 months. This is a guy who turned pro, I think 2015 at the US Open. And, definitely a guy that people talked about as like a promising up and coming American. And, he was just kind of a party boy. He kind of, and understandably, he was like, whatever, 18 when he turned pro, maybe 17. I can't even remember now. That's how it goes. I think very rare that you get somebody like Carlos Alcaraz, who is
the maturity that he has is crazy.
Yeah, mature beyond his years. So that was a little understandable, but I think now, Tommy, it's well documented how much time he's spending in the gym, and you can really see how good of shape he's in, how fast he is. He looks like a professional tennis player now, rather than just kind of I don't know, almost a kid that is really good at tennis and kid can knock off some top guys when he's on. But no, he had a great tournament. Unfortunately, he ran into buzzsaw Novak, and watching the match, he surprisingly had chances in the first set. He was down like 5-2. It was just one break, but he was down 5-2, got it back to 5-all, and was serving up 30 love to go to a first set tiebreak. And I think at 30-15, Cahill said, this is a very dangerous moment in this game for Tommy Paul. He literally said it on the air. He said, I see that look in Novak's eyes that I've seen before. And they showed Novak, and sure enough, there's that lockdown mode face where you just the guy is not going to miss a tennis ball. And Cahill was dead on. And Djokovic, from down love 30, came back to win the game, basically won 4 straight points. So good run for Tommy. He
very good.
Understandably a little downtrodden in his press conference, but you know what,
he was a little down. It was it's tough. Like you said, you never want to see Novak on your half of the draw, or at least until the final. I mean, that's tough, but
it's
a good run for him.
Yeah, great run for sure. So hopefully he can keep it up. He said he doesn't want to be a one-hit wonder, and nobody wants him to be a one-hit wonder. So keep it going, Tommy. That was a great run.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool that he shared that special moment with Ben Shelton after the match when Ben was cooling down on the bike, and he went over to him and hugged Ben's team. I thought that was class act and a lot of respect between the two. And I just thought that was, you don't see that with everybody. So I feel like the American men and women actually are just kind of united in that sense. And obviously American women, Jess Pegula out in the quarters, tough to see. And I learned the hard way that I just can't speak about anything because all of my predictions were wrong and they were out literally that same night. So
I think we picked Rybakina, didn't we? We picked Rybakina.
Oh yeah, true. But
and then Quarter, to be fair, Quarter was hurt, so that also doesn't fully count as a miss.
No,
but that
unfortunate.
We both picked Pegula. I think maybe we were victims of picking sort of who we wanted to see win rather than who we maybe actually thought was going to win. As Azarenka's won the tournament twice, she just has more experience in the later stages of majors than Jess does, regardless of how consistent Jess has been and all the great results she's had. Other than doubles, still hasn't made it to the very, very end of a slam. So, Azarenka just came out like I sort of just thought of that quote from Mike Tyson, where it's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and that's kind of how it looked in that match. Azarenka just came out hot out of the gate, just playing super aggressive, getting everything, like just running every ball down, and Pegula kind of didn't know what to do. She was several times looking at her box.
She's kind of stunned, like
and having she beat her at the, I believe, 2021 Australian Open first round. Pegula did. So you were kind of hoping that could translate, but that was the first round, and this is that was the quarters. So and she was the favorite. Being the highest remaining seed left, like just knowing that pressure. Wow, like this is the best chance I'm ever going to have to win a slam is right now. Too bad, but it just said great results, and just keep it going.
Yes, to build off of that.
The most likable person on tour,
for
I think.
Sure. And obviously it was crushing too to see her and Coco not make the final. But
I know. So unfortunately, both of them are out, and everybody sort of, I think, had very high expectations, especially Coco, I think, and she had high expectations of herself. You could see how disappointed she was when she lost.
It was so sad. She was holding back tears. She handled, but I mean,
still so young.
Same thing with the maturity. She handles everything so well beyond her years, and she'll go far too. In this year, it'll be hopefully a good year for American women as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we can't ignore Ben Shelton here. I think
certainly not.
Man, I just can't imagine being the first time you've ever left the country and you make the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. It's unbelievable. I mean, people will say, oh, he didn't face anybody like ranked super high until like even Tommy Paul, I guess, was the highest ranked player he faced, but he beat some players that were really hot. I mean, Nico Jari in the first round is not an easy first round. The guy has been hurt for the last couple of years, and so that's the only reason he's like ranked as low as he is. And Ben fought off a match point against him, and like his run could have literally ended in the first round. And people would have just maybe said, oh, like, there's a lot of hype around Ben Shelton. We'll see if he can produce in majors, but the kid did. And
he did.
I mean, that serve is like, I was pretty convinced on Ben Shelton, but just after watching this, like his serve is huge, and it's just going to keep him in. I mean, it's going to keep him in any match. I mean, I think he had a 68 game hold streak, they said.
That's crazy.
And several times against Tommy, coming back from behind in the game, like just coming up with big serves. At one point, Tommy looked at his box and was like, which way should I lean? Because he couldn't it was hard
he
to
couldn't
read.
do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can hit in the 140s and your serve is hard to read, that's deadly. So, and the kid's just not in, Shelton's not in pro shape yet. You know, he's in good shape, but he's not in like the shape that Tommy Paul is. And again, he's been on the tour less than a year, so that's understandable. So it'll be dangerous once he kind of gets that going and maybe works on the return a little more. Watch out, because he's a force, and he's going to have the fans behind him. So,
oh, for sure. Yeah. Like we talked about on Monday, just how likable he is. And just, that stems from his family and how he was raised. And
100%.
So yeah, very, very exciting for him. He's a great player. And like you said, very well liked already.
Yeah. If you want to know how good of a kid he is, we posted a reel on Instagram of him that Madison, you actually put together. So that was very cool. I love that reel. And we posted it, and literally, I'm not kidding, 10 minutes after he lost this match against Tommy Paul, we get a direct message in our Instagram from him asking if we can make him a collaborator on the post, which basically just means it will show up then on his Instagram feed as well. And like, people just don't do that. Pro tennis players don't do that. I think as he gets older and he's with Team 8 now, which is Federer's agency, they're more and more people want a piece of him, and he's going to have to say no more and more. And, but it's very cool to see, like, this young kid just literally DMing people, just like, hey, can you I'm happy to put that post on my page, like at the peak of his powers right now,
Yeah.
So that was incredibly generous of him to do for us. And that's just, I don't know. I think that shows what kind of guy he is. So
for sure. And we're just so happy and lucky to have been able to cover him, like we've talked about, from NCAA's on in the TennisONE app. So he's definitely been a very fun and amazing player to get to know and be able to help provide coverage for. So we're very lucky.
100%. The second thing that we learned from the quarterfinals and semifinals, Rybakina is definitely a top 5 player, maybe higher than that, but obviously coming off winning Wimbledon last year, there were no points. So she missed out on points. She misses out on the recognition that you get from the points, because the points ultimately determine what you're ranked in the world, right? So if you're top 10, top 5, that and what kind of draws you get at tournaments, the higher you rank, the better draws you get. And so she got shafted on the points. That is the biggest moment of her life, winning Wimbledon, which for most players is the one. That's the one they grew up dreaming of winning. It's not usually US Open, Roland Garros, Australian Open. It is Wimbledon. And so to win it and kind of, and I would also say that Wimbledon had banned Russian and Belarusian players that year, and I think that also hurt her. She was born in Moscow, but she plays under the Kazakhstan flag. I believe their federation, gave her a lot of money to help jumpstart her pro career, and that's a common thing that we see in pro tennis, and perfect timing for her, obviously, because then she gets to play under a flag, whereas everyone else that was born where she is not playing under a flag currently for obvious reasons. So yeah, she had a lot against her, I would say, in the last couple of months. And look, she looks totally out there to prove herself. In the press conference, I believe after her quarterfinal match, she said, I answered all the questions at Wimbledon, so there's nothing to say anymore. And she's playing like that. I mean, she's serving huge. She's very tall. I think she's
so
actually
tall.
Yeah, I think she's underreported, because it said she was 6 feet tall, and it also says that about Azarenka, and she definitely looks taller than Azarenka.
She looks like she's almost like 6'3". I'm not kidding. She's so tall.
I was looking it up because I was like, is she underreported? I'm like typing this in on Google, and I found an article that Karolina Pliskova actually said, I'm 6'1", and she's definitely taller than me. So, this happens in pro sports. People they lie about height, they lie about age, they lie about weight. This is kind of how it goes. But obviously the height really helps that serve of hers, because it's huge. And now, now she's into the top 10 with just by making the final, and she's going to be ranked maybe like 8 or something if she wins. I'd have to confirm that, but yeah, I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch her play at all, Madison?
Yeah, I have a little bit, obviously. I'm not on Australian time. So sometimes I don't quite make it through all of these matches. But yeah, she's such an incredibly consistent player. And I just feel like she's one that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. It just seems like she's pretty flawless, especially what we've seen of her in obviously Wimbledon last year and the Australian Open. And I was just thinking back to that her after she won Wimbledon, that press conference where she kind of really hadn't showed any emotion or anything. And then someone had asked a question about her family, and that was when she just kind of broke down, and that was the first time that we really saw her like break the barriers and show us a little bit of who she is. And I just feel like you said, she's very stoic and kind of serious, I feel like, in her press conferences. So I think that obviously seems to be helping her on court, because she just kind of is able to compartmentalize everything, and it's working for her. Whatever she's doing in Australia is working. So
yeah, it's working. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she has beaten 3 past major champions in this draw, right? She beat Swiatek.
Yep.
And she beat Ostapenko, and she beat Azarenka. Yeah, I was looking it up in TennisONE app just to confirm. But yeah, I mean, so that's not easy. She's young, and when she wins these matches, like we said, she's not like having huge reactions or anything. I mean, she just looks like she's on a mission. And I think, obviously after this, she'll be closer to the ranking she deserves, but she probably should be even higher than what she will be, obviously missing out on those Wimbledon points. So that was
a fun one to watch, though, for sure. It's exciting for her.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about her a little later when we make our picks for who we think is going to win each of the finals. So a little more on her later. The number one thing that we learned from the quarters and semis, Novak Djokovic makes tennis players play bad tennis. A lot of times, and Serena is famous for saying this, when she was the world number 1 player, and even when she wasn't, it still kind of felt like she was a little after. She would say, players always bring their absolute best to play me. It's hard to be me because I'm playing tennis players at their absolute best every single time because they have nothing to lose and they want to knock me off. I don't think that happens with Djokovic. Yesterday Tommy said that he wishes he would have played better, but that Djokovic made him play bad. Berrettini said that exact same thing when he lost to the Wimbledon final in 2021 to Novak. He said that Djokovic made him play bad. And I don't know, mentally, I know I'd be very scared going out to play Novak. Obviously, I'm not the accomplished player that these guys are, but like you can kind of think back to players that you used to play against that kind of have the feeling of Djokovic. And, I don't know if it's like harder to upset him versus like a Federer, because Federer is like such a nice guy, and maybe you're a little more comfortable going out there, even though like, it's like he's perfect and
Roger Federer.
Yeah, he looks like a god over there on the other side of the net. But like, I don't know. I think that maybe you can be a little more comfortable when you play him. Whereas Novak, he's intimidating, and he has a lot of very passionate fans that cheer him on. And I don't know. I just like basically watching his matches when he is starting to lose some games or something. It's just because of him. Like either he, especially in this tournament, like physically looks like he's having an issue. He's like stumbling around out there or whatever. And then the next thing you know, he like flips a switch. He's just like totally fine. He's playing like, super long points. And this is why a lot of people are saying right now, they think he's kind of like, either faking or kind of hyping up this hamstring injury. I don't think he's faking it. I don't know how serious it is. I think it might just be some tightness. But there are several moments in the match last night where he's like falling over, and Tommy unfortunately couldn't capitalize early, because if he would have, he probably would have won that first set because he played well in the back half of the set. It's tough to say if that would have happened if he was leading, but
if it would have changed the trajectory of that match.
Yeah, but I think with that going on, even when you're playing somebody who looks injured, like it's hard enough playing against Djokovic because he's just like an insane tennis player. But then when he like looks like he's physically struggling, like you probably just can't focus on what your game plan is. So yeah, I don't know. It kind of just feels like when Djokovic is losing, that he's losing on purpose almost to like
to like either psych the other player
to like psych him out, or like just make it interesting, or I don't know. It just, because you see him play such great tennis so often, you just don't feel like he can play the way he does sometimes when he starts to lose points in games. Like some of the backhands he was missing, you're just like, what? Like I don't know. I don't think he's fake. I don't think he's losing on purpose, but there's been a lot of times in the past where I just kind of am like, does he sometimes lose a set on purpose just to like get the other player to relax a little bit, and then he just like pummels him after that?
Lays into him for the rest of the match.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just not easy to play against this guy, whether it's him being intimidating or he's the absolute best there is out there right now, by a little bit of a margin, I'd say. So
yeah, it's just, he's just like completely like nothing anybody's ever seen in any sport, really. Like he's just a different animal, honestly. Like I don't even, it's just crazy. And just these players that are playing him are really good players, and he makes them look
not
significantly worse.
I
don't want to say bad, because they're not bad, but like like the players have mentioned, even what he made, like what Rublev looked like in that match against him. And Rublev is an amazing player.
100%.
And so, I mean, Tommy Paul is a great player too. Like these guys are good.
Yeah. He just, just working Alex de Minaur, then same thing with Rublev, then pretty much same thing with Paul. Paul kind of put up a little fight at the beginning, but
and after that,
he literally makes like you said, Rublev, who's only ranked one spot behind him in the rankings technically right now. Now, again, Djokovic should be ranked higher because he missed out on a lot of tournaments last year, but it's only one spot, and he made Rublev look like he was outside the top 50 at least. So we'll see what Tsitsipas has to say about it. We're going to talk about our winners, but first we're just going to take a short break. Hey guys, welcome back to the TennisONE podcast. We just finished talking about the top 3 things that we learned from the quarters and semis of this year's Australian Open. Now we're going to talk about the finals. Madison and I have both backed somebody in each of the finals, and we're going to talk about why we think those players are going to win. We're going to make a case for them. So we're going to start with the men's final first, which is Novak Djokovic versus Stefanos Tsitsipas. Madison, who do you think is going to win this one?
Yeah, obviously, we talked a lot about him this podcast. He's kind of been our hot topic. I'm going to go with Novak. I just feel like he's hungry, ready for redemption after not being able to play in last year's Australian Open. Still had a great year. Like you mentioned, he wasn't able to play in the United States, didn't play US Open, didn't play Miami, didn't play Indian Wells. He could be ranked a lot higher. I just think he's kind of just hungry to like prove that he's still the best. And he's 9-0 in Australian Open finals and 10-0 in Australian Open semifinals.
Not too bad.
Not
as Novak would say.
Not a bad statistic going into it. However, his opponent, Stefanos Tsitsipas, he played 2021 French Open final, and Stefanos put up a little bit of a fight. It was not an easy match.
He's up 2 sets to love. Oof.
Yeah. Tough. So I think it's going to be closer than what we've seen Novak had to play in this Australian Open so far. I think it's going to be the toughest test, as it should be. It's the final. It shouldn't. Sometimes it is a blowout, but it shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see, but I think Novak's going to do it.
3 sets, 4 sets, or 5 sets? What do you think?
I don't think it's going to be in straight sets. I feel like tennis fans would probably, maybe they want to see it go to 5. Realistically, I could see it going 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4.
Could be
If
one
it
of those
goes
things
5,
where he loses a set on purpose to then
it
like
could
we
be
were just
that.
talking
It
about.
could be that.
Oh.
I think I wouldn't be surprised though if it went 5, but I'm going to go with 4. I think 4 is realistic.
Yeah. I am going to now, if I was betting on this, I'm sure you get value betting on Tsitsipas. So I probably would bet on Tsitsipas because if you bet on Djokovic, like you're not going to make that much. But if it was do or die, obviously you probably have to take Djokovic. I'm going to give a few reasons why I think Tsitsipas is ready to win his first major final. You know, Djokovic is definitely on a tier by himself. And I think when Rafa, you know, depending on the surface, if he's injured, that type of thing, you kind of have those two guys as the upper echelon of pro tennis on the men's side right now. But right after them, I would say you have Alcaraz, who has won a major and is currently the world number 1. And I think Tsitsipas is in that category with Alcaraz and Medvedev. So those 3 guys, you know, 2 of them have won majors. Tsitsipas hasn't, but he's beating all of the, you know, best players like coming into this, right? He's had like 5 previous top, you know, wins over former top 10 players. He's playing great. He's had, you know, insane results, I would say, at the Australian Open specifically. He's made the semis. Like, I think this is the 4th time that he made the semis, and this is the first time he's actually made the final. But, you know, he's beaten Federer here. He beat him in the 4th round, and I think that was 2019. And that was kind of like his breakthrough. You know, he's kind of this young, long-haired Greek kid, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, the future of tennis. You know, he's very charismatic. And then in 2021, he beat Nadal in the quarterfinals, I believe. So Djokovic is kind of the last boss he has to conquer down under out of the big 3. And, you know, he just looks ready. Like that win against Coric in the United Cup a couple weeks ago. Like he'd beaten Coric once, I think maybe it was back in 2018 or something. It was like the first time they played. But since then, he had lost 3 times to Coric, and he'd had, like, in that one match, he had, I don't know, 5-6 match points and lost.
And couldn't do it.
Yeah. And even in this match against Coric, a United Cup, he had a lot of match points, and it took him a while to close it out. But you could just see his reaction when he won that match, like how confident he looked.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this tournament, he's beating good players pretty, not totally routinely. I mean, honestly, though, the semifinal last night against Khachanov, he had match points in the 3rd set. It should have probably been a straight sets win, and he kind of blinked when he was serving for it there. And Khachanov got back in it by winning the 3rd set, but then Tsitsipas just kind of said no. And
no.
Yeah, and I think that shows too, like just how strong mentally he is. Like, you know, it's really hard to shake it off when you lose match points. And
I'm sure I couldn't imagine what's
definitely
going through your mind
in the semis of a slam too. That's a slam that you've lost in that round the 3 previous times you were there. So to kind of just like shut the door after that had happened, I just think it shows Tsitsipas mentally is in a really strong place. He's playing the best tennis of his life. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd will be like, because both players have had a lot of fans from their respective countries. There's been a ton of Serbian fans there for Novak and a ton of Greek, you know, fans for Tsitsipas. So I'm wondering if it's going to be like a 50-50, or if the crowd, you know, I think ultimately the crowd would kind of be for Tsitsipas as like the underdog, right? So especially
with the recent controversy this weekend, might be a little shifted.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help. So we'll see, you know, between like playing his best tennis, very strong mentally right now, possibly having the crowd a little more. He hasn't lost this year. And then I think just the unknown is what is Novak's physical condition, because if he was playing like he did yesterday in the 1st set against Tommy Paul, I think no doubt Tsitsipas would have won that set. So gosh, he was up 2-0 on him at Roland Garros.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. So that obviously is a mental hurdle, but they're playing for the #1 ranking as well as the first major of the year. So really exciting to see. We'll see which of us is right, but
very exciting. Could go either way. It really could. I feel like Tsitsipas made a kind of a pass at Margot Robbie, and I feel like I don't know if it reached her or not, but if it wasn't award show season, she could very well be there.
If she was in the crowd, would that be good or bad for Tsitsipas? Would that?
If that's like his celebrity crush, I feel like that would make me so nervous. Like if someone that I was like that seems like that's his. Like,
for sure,
that's his girl that he would give anything to be with. She is married, but he shot a shot anyways.
He took a shot. What can't hurt. But yeah, I don't know if that'd be good for him or not. Maybe. I mean, on one hand, like you'd be nervous, but on the other hand, you'd really want to show off. You would like be so focused out there on the court. Like, I can't say there haven't been moments when I was in high school or college or whatever, and I thought I was really like feeling myself playing out there. So let's see what he can do. Let's move on to Rybakina taking on Sabalenka in the women's final. That's tonight, very early for us. That's like 2:30 a.m. our time. So I guess technically Saturday
tomorrow
morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt we'll be up for it. What are you seeing in this one, Madison?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a very, very good match. I for sure see it going to 3 sets, but I'm going to take straight set Sabalenka because she has not dropped a set this year in the Australian Open. She's played some good players and she is just playing so well. I can't even, another player not making many mistakes. She just seems like she's on fire. We've talked about her feist and her like her feistiness and her power. I just think that it's going to be a battle. It is, I think 3 for sure though, but I think she's going to get it. She's going to get her first major. She's going to come out on top.
Yeah. She, the biggest key is her serve. I mean, she was last year to the point where she was hitting underhand serves in some scenarios because mentally she just lost it on the serve. And she's talked about a lot of the work she's put in the off season, and she is serving much better. She's still double faulting a little bit. There was the Vekic match. That had quite a few double faults from both players, actually. Vekic even having more, but I think Vekic had like 13 double faults or something. But yeah, so it's better than it was. I saw her like rifling second serve aces, Sabalenka. So yeah, this is her best shot. Obviously, she's never made the final of a major, so she's looking good. Hasn't lost a set, like you said, but
that could also potentially be a demise too. I mean, that's
Well, let me tell you why I think it might be. So I'm going to take Elena Rybakina in this one. The Wimbledon champ. Obviously, she's playing really solid tennis. We said she's on a mission. She's hitting huge off both wings. I mean, I made a joke that there was a video of Juan Martín del Potro a few years ago where they inserted a Thor hammer into his hand instead of the racket because he would just absolutely annihilate some of these ground strokes, especially the forehand, which he's famous for. She kind of looks like that sometimes. She's just smoking ground strokes for winners. And so I was like, somebody needs to make this video with her and the Thor hammer. But in addition to her ground strokes, she is serving very well. She's serving in the 70% for first serve, like sometimes high 70s, whereas Sabalenka, is kind of serving. I think she's more in the 60s right now. So Rybakina's got that going for her, and the serve is just going to be so huge in this match to hold because, it's not easy to break either player.
Definitely not.
I think the past major experience is going to really help Rybakina, having been in a major final, especially Wimbledon, which, like we said, is kind of the most prestigious. So having that experience is going to be huge, especially playing in Sabalenka, who, has kind of, I would say, underachieved in some situations, and it always has kind of seemed to be.
I would agree.
Yeah, she's made major semis before, but hasn't ever been able to get over the hump, and it just kind of always seems like it's a mental thing, and so
mental block.
Yeah, so now she's gotten past the mental block of not being able to reach a final, but is she going to be able to carry that through and close it out against somebody who's already won a major?
Do you think it'll go 3?
I think 3 for sure. Yeah. And actually Sabalenka is probably the favorite. She's ranked higher, obviously. Now again, Rybakina doesn't have her points, but
a little underrated for sure. Yeah. Underranked.
Being somebody that won a major less than a year ago and is technically the underdog, and is serving better. Yeah. I just have to go with Rybakina. But we both love Sabalenka. I would love to see her win. Like I've
really would.
Been a big fan of her since she first came on tour. She's, like I said, just very fun, bubbly, great attitude.
Yeah, she's so intense on court, but then off court, she's so different, which is always fun to see her real personality when she's in her post-match interviews.
100%. I just remembered what I was going to say about Tsitsipas. And that is because we didn't talk about it on the last episode, but on episode 2 of this podcast, we did a draft with myself, you, Madison, and Nate Walroth from Tennis Point. And we drafted men's and women's in different categories, like people that were on the Netflix show or top 10 players or past champs, things like that. And Nate has won the women's outright. All of our players are out, Madison. Yep.
He took home that crown.
He took the women's. We still need to figure out, dinner was on the line. Do you have to win both to get the dinner? Do you get 2 dinners if you win the men's and women's? We'll see, because I'm still in it on the men's side. I'm down 1 point to Nate. He has Djokovic and I have Tsitsipas. So if Tsitsipas wins, we will be tied, and then Tsitsipas will have the head-to-head. So I will win if Tsitsipas can get this done. So I'm a little biased picking him, but
the pressure is on, though.
Ooh, Nate, if you're listening, it's going to be a good one. We might have to call each other and listen to this live. Who knows? But watch the match live, that is. But yeah, it's going to be 2 fun finals. I'm excited to. First major final of the year is tonight. So
it's exciting.
This is what we're here for as tennis fans. So.
And I know we said this last episode, but I really do think either one of these finals could go either way. I really believe that. I think there are 4 very, very good players participating in this Australian Open final.
Yeah, definitely. On the men's side, you definitely got what you wanted in terms of the final. Like, these are the 2 guys that are playing the best tennis of anybody, and have the most experience in terms of like best of 5. And obviously Tsitsipas is younger and hasn't won majors, but like he's been around and has been in this situation before. So that's what you want at the end of a final. On the women's side, 2 really strong players as well. Obviously, there were some players seated higher than them, ranked higher than them, but still it's better in my view than sort of getting somebody like Magda Linette. You love to see a Cinderella story, but I don't think that it draws the viewers that some players that kind of have a history of being good do. So fun finals. Like you said, could go either way.
Yeah.
Djokovic probably is the most favorite of any of the 4, but
for sure.
We'll see.
You never know.
You never know. Anything, especially when it comes to Djokovic, anything can happen. So.
It really can. So.
All right, Madison.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. Another one.
Conclusion.
Make sure everybody, again, this is on Spotify now, so you can listen to it in TennisONE. You can listen to it in Spotify. We're going to do an episode on Monday, recapping the 2023 Australian Open first major of the year, and excited to watch the finals. Shoot us a comment in the app if you want, or leave us a review, rate us. We're new to this, so we're just any feedback is great.